let's talk about Biden's demented United States of America. Everything I see coming out of America these days is absolutely back to front. It's like being in a hall of mirrors. Like the opposite of what you should be seeing coming out of a responsible government is what Biden is doing. And so first things is his Build Back Better bill, the $3.5 trillion spending agenda that they claim has a price tag of zero.
Man, the thing is, so they're generating so much money. And this is, for me, for a government, particularly a supposedly conservative, Republican, right-wing government, to be spending money
well,
like
he's not. He's a Democrat, so
yeah. But they're but it's still like supposed to be conservative. For them to be like printing money and spending money like he's the sort of drunk chancellor of Zimbabwe. It's ridiculous. I think is it 40% of all the dollars in existence were printed last year.
I would not be surprised, because this is just literally money printer go burr, right? And so, but they're claiming this is going to have a price tag of zero. And what they mean is this is going to add to the federal debt zero, because they're just going to tax people to reap this money.
Which isn't the same as it not costing anything.
No, it's not even slightly. But the thing is, all of these projections always end up sort of tailing off anyway, because people end up moving their money outside of the reach of the government. So they're never going to get this money back. So it will add to the debt.
And quantitative easing in its essence contributes hugely to inequality, because all the extra money that's printed.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. You're jumping ahead because it's all coming, right? And so when asked about this, Joe Psaki was just like, "Does the president really believe?" If we can go to the next one, John, that Build Back Better does not add a dime to the national debt? And she's like, "Correct, it won't." And the reporter's just like, "Well, why should Americans believe that?" And she's just like, "Because it won't." It's like, "Oh well, if you say so, then Jen, then it just won't." Right? Okay, moving on. How's inflation looking in the United States at the moment? Well, not good. 5.4%. Why? Because the Biden administration is just pumping literally trillions of dollars out into the economy.
Yeah.
Well, that has an effect, right? And this is an increase in the inflation as well. August had a 5.3%. This is now 5.4% in September. I'm sure that by November we'll find out that it's even higher for October.
Yeah.
And so not good. And this is essentially just theft from poor people.
Yep.
Theft
from everybody. If you've got savings, it's theft.
Absolutely.
Quantitative easing steals from prudent financial savers and hands the money to borrowers.
That's right. But the people who are least impacted by this are the people with millions of dollars. Because why would they care? It's not their problem that, petrol prices have gone up or the food prices have gone up, because they're incredibly rich. No, it's really poor people who have this problem.
And also, the richer you are, the more likely you are to own fixed assets such as property or...
that go up in value.
Or shares or anything like that goes up in value. The extra money that's created flows into these assets.
Absolutely.
So then it contributes to inequality, because if you own these assets, you're cushioned. The money flows to you. If you don't have any assets, if you're just living paycheck to paycheck, you've got a family, you've got a blue collar job, then you're
screwed.
You're screwed.
Yeah. And so this was finally admitted by mainstream media, where one CNBC commentator was just like, well, yeah, it was worse than expected. Worse than we thought it would be. Well, I mean, any Austrian economist has been saying this is a terrible idea, and all of the modern monetary theorists have been like, no, it'll be fine. There won't be major inflation. And, major inflation's arrived. But anyway, let's move on to the supply chain problems. Why are there supply chain problems? Well, nobody seems to have a solid answer on this, which is weird, because you'd think it is something that people would know something about. But so this was an article on worldgrain.com talking about how the Port of Los Angeles has been apparently will be operating around the clock in a bid to regain terminal space and things like this. But rail, barge, ocean freight and trucking are all down. And of course, the fuel prices have gone up. So this is making all things more difficult. So the Transport Secretary for the United States, Pete Buttigieg, has said, well, the bottlenecks we're seeing at our nation's ports are exactly why we've been calling for a generational investment in our infrastructure, so validating the trillions of spending. As our economy continues to grow, we must build port and freight infrastructure that can handle increased demand. But why is there suddenly increased demand? What's going on? And, Mayor Pete has basically been on maternity leave, so this is his first statement on this in weeks. If we can go to the next one, you can see that he's just been having a month off. Weird.
I like how you called it maternity leave instead of paternity leave.
Well,
I think that's correct.
That's what they call it. I didn't actually say that. But, so I don't know why his husband can't take care of the children while he's doing his job. But
how did they have babies?
They adopted them.
Right.
So anyway, supply chain problems. Say, was it the New York Times? I think is the next one. Washington Post. Just lower your expectations. Literally, that's what they say. So they're complaining that, they point out, a huge flotilla of container ships is stuck offshore in California, waiting to unload. American consumers, their expectations pampered and catered to for decades, are not accustomed to inconvenience. So the problem is the consumers. The problem is the people who want to buy things.
Well, how come when it happens in the UK, it's blamed on Brexit?
Well, exactly.
Is Brexit impacting California now?
I mean, good, if it is. For generations, American shoppers have been trained to be nightmares, says Amanda Mull in The Atlantic in August. The pandemic has shown just how desperately the consumer class clings to the feeling of being served. Customers' persistent whine, why don't they just hire more people, sounds feeble in this era of the Great Resignation, especially in industries such as food service with reputations being tough places to work. Why are these people resigning? Because Biden is literally paying them more to stay at home.
Yeah.
Wow. Pumping this money into the economy and just giving it to people for free means they don't have to work, which is surely going to have no long-term consequences.
Yeah, I mean, at least under communism, people were forced at gunpoint to work.
I suppose there is that.
I think Biden should, if he's gonna institute this sort of communism light, like paying everybody this wage, then at least bring in the guns as well. get people down the salt mines.
Well, careful what you wish for, because I think that'll eventually get to that point. But I love some of the comments here. I understand people are getting frustrated, but it's time for people to take a chill pill. I'm just going to not have the things I usually have. So just accept it. Just accept you're not going to have these things. And if we can get to the next one, Wally Adenio, the Biden administration's second highest official in the Treasury Department, said, the reality is that the only way we're going to get to a place where we can work through this transition is if everyone in America and everyone around the world gets vaccinated.
What's that got to do with like the build-up of ships off the coast of California?
Well, take a guess.
Oh, the people on the ships haven't been vaccinated, so they're worried they're going to bring in...
The truck drivers need to be vaccinated, and if they're not, they're getting fired.
Oh, really? Why does a truck driver need to be vaccinated?
That's a great question.
Well, they're going to give like coronavirus to a prostitute they pick up? I mean, there is no need for a truck driver to be vaccinated. They're in a cab.
You would think so, wouldn't you? But no. But anyway, he says, describing the disastrous economic conditions as, quote, an economy that's in transition. There's a lot of transitioning going on around these days. He says, we are seeing higher prices for some of the things that people have to buy. While he praised the administration's stimulus payments, he also pinned the blame squarely on the unvaccinated. He explained that the primary reason that Biden continues to push for everyone to be vaccinated because only then could the White House, quote, provide the resources the American people need to make it to the other side of the supply chain problem. Sounds like they're being held hostage, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is. I mean, everything seems to lead back to sort of strong arming people into getting vaccinated.
Yeah, but also I'm very concerned about the provide the resources the American people need, as if the White House is the creator and author of all of the resources and productivity and prosperity of America.
Well, it is when they're printing like 4.5 trillion. How much is it?
Oh, 3.5 for that one, but they've done this previously for over a trillion as well. So it's got to be looking at about 5 trillion in Biden's like 9 months of being president. So it looks, I mean, like all I'm saying is if you're trying to destroy America, what else would you do?
Yeah, right. And considering, traditionally the Democrats have been famous as a sort of fiscally conservative.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
Balancing the books. Well, I mean,
they claim they are.
Under Clinton, I mean, the books were balanced, and then Bush came in and slashed taxes and stuff, so that there was a bit of a disparity.
Debt,
but this is just insanity.
Well, it's mad.
Quantitative easing is theft.
Yes, it is. But the thing is, it's also literally a meme that's been going around. In fact, I posted this yesterday. Right. But if you scroll down a little bit, we'll keep the supply chain broken until you get the jabs, says Klaus Schwab of the Economic Forum. And it's like, well, how's that wrong? It seems to be what's happening. And the weird thing is, if we can get to the next one, there are people who are posting like videos they take themselves. This is on the 14th of October. If you can just play the video without the audio so we can see what's going on. But you can just see that this guy is just driving past one of these container shipping ports, and it's just empty.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing going on there. So it's not that there's a backlog that can't be processed because of a lack of space or something like that. And there was another one that was posted today about a chap who is a truck driver. And he's like, well, we've got all the trucks. They're just turning away our empty trucks
recently I seen a
and not letting us actually load anything up. So there are truck drivers, there are trucks, it's just nothing's coming off the ports for some reason. And so the question is this part of a green initiative in California? Because I found this from back in June this year, where apparently there's a quest to green an empire of mega warehouses in California. So this is basically ideological because 40% of the nation's consumer goods come through California because it's the closest place to China where they're being produced.
Yep.
And the goal is to make the World Logistics Center the most sustainable logistics center in the world, says Ido Benzivi, the president and chief executive of the Highland Fairview Properties. This comes as a constellation of new regulations and investments conspire to clean up the industry. The South Coast Air Quality Management District, a regional pollution regulation agency, approved its long-awaited indirect source rule on May the 7th, making warehouses responsible for the pollution generated by the trucks that visit their docks. And California Governor Gavin Newsom had proposed a $1.5 billion investment in clean transport and things like that, and says one of them, Heather Arias, the division chief of transportation and toxics for the division of the California Air Resource Board, says, we're working toward a zero emissions freight system. So I wonder if it's anything to do with all of this. But anyway, so after her little press conference, Jen Psaki, looking a bit rattled, just decided to walk off without putting a mask on, which actually violates the Biden-imposed mask mandate on the White House.
Well, I'm sure the police will be visiting her home.
It's not going to be a case of rules for for me, but it is going to be a case of rules for children, because for some reason in America, some states are forcing children to wear masks in schools, even though the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, while they issued this new recommendation, it just seems that their own data would contradict the need for forcing children to wear masks. A number of US states have required their students to wear masks following that recommendation. But the thing is, the fatality rate for children under the age of 16 has been less than 0.003%.
Yeah. I mean, this is like the JCVI. So the government's medical advisors in the UK recommended that children aren't given the vaccine.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about the vaccine too much and get this taken down from YouTube. But the government overruled its own medical advisors and said, no, we're gonna vaccinate everybody.
Yeah. And so Biden puts in rules. You have to wear a mask in the White House. No. Anyway, moving on. What's going on in Chicago? The safest place on earth. Oh, that's right. The Chicago police are being put on unpaid leave for not being vaccinated. Apparently, they're placing officers on no pay leave for unreported vaccination status. Now, how many people do you think that is? Do you think there's going to be like 10, 15 people?
I thought it'd be loads.
It's not like Chicago needs its police or anything, right? There's nothing bad has ever happened in Chicago. Well, according to a CNN anchor, it's 35% of their force.
Jeez.
If we can get to the next one, John. They've got 12,770 total officers, and 35% did not give their vaccination status, which means 4,500 could be placed on no pay status. I'm sure they'll work without pay, though.
But surely, I mean, that's unworkable. They're not gonna lay off like 35% of their police force.
Yeah, you would think that. In a sane country, they wouldn't do that. But America has been taken over by absolute effing lunatics, and they seem to be going full bore down into the abyss. I mean, this is good news for Chicago either way, because, I mean, like last weekend, 24 people were shot. 24 people in one weekend. And the thing is, that's actually quite a low weekend. I've seen literally Chicago weekends where it's twice that. Only 4 people killed, so, they don't need all those cops. But when Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was asked about this, she said that the city's Fraternal Order of Policing is attempting to induce an insurrection by opposing the vaccine mandate. Induce an insurrection.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting.
Same.
After the year that the police have had and everything they've had to deal with, all the sort of opprobrium from the public and from the media, and to then, hit them with this. It's, You're
not getting paid because you aren't doing what we tell you. And so what they've done is decided to just threaten to withhold their retirement benefits. So if you don't submit to the vaccine mandate, you aren't getting your retirement either.
But all police get shot a day before they retire anyway. I've seen films.
That's lucky for them, really. Otherwise, they'd need that. There has been a vaccine mandate for the firefighters as well. And of course, there have been firefighters who've been posting saying, well, look, I'm not having this. I'm not being subjected to a vaccine mandate. I'm resigning. And so Seattle police, that was in Chicago previously, but this is also happening elsewhere.
Yeah.
In Seattle, fire and police are just handing in their boots about the non-compliance with the vaccine mandate.
Yeah.
So why? Why are you doing this? Why are you literally turning on the institutions that make your country run?
Yeah. And also, like, firefighters, police, they're going to generally be fit and healthy and quite young. So coronavirus isn't a huge risk for them. And if they're interacting with the public or whatever, I'm sure they'll wear, they'll comply with whatever distancing and face masks and all the rest of it. So, I mean, the risk to the public is pretty low. I think the risk to the public is far higher if you're getting rid of like 35% of your police and fire brigade. I'd rather be rescued. I'd rather be rescued from a fire by somebody who's got coronavirus than burn in the fire.
Yes, I would as well. Like, absolutely no questions asked. But anyway, so yeah, these people then went out and fed the homeless because they're not scum. Unlike the people who are in charge of them. Yeah. Anyway, so then we get onto the
tasty as well.
It does actually, and I haven't had lunch. So anyway, so the Biden regime decided to try and impose a vaccine mandate on pilots as well, which absolutely destroyed Southwest Airlines' ability to fly planes. And The Guardian was complaining that, Tucker Carlson has claimed the cancellation of flights by Southwest Airlines was a direct consequence of the Biden administration's vaccine mandate for federal workers. Carlson also said that a Florida group of air traffic controllers who are subject to federal rules apparently walked out on Friday to protest against the rules, contributing to difficulties facing the passengers. Disruption to Southwest flights began shortly after the Airline Pilots Association asked the federal court to block the airline's own vaccine mandate, a kind of measure praised but not ordered by Biden. So, right, okay. And so that was obviously like, nothing Tucker Carlson says is true. And you get like CNBC and then have to report, well, I mean, it is, weather and staffing. Weather and staffing. The weather in Texas.
It wasn't raining jabs.
Maybe it was, but the staffing issue, I think, is one thing that they have to dance around because they're like, well, I mean, bad weather, air traffic control issues, and its own shortage of available staff. Well, where are those available staff? Yeah. I've no idea, but like a left-wing source came out and said, Gizmodo particularly, they go, despite pilots, like leftist media is claiming otherwise. They say, how the Southwest flights cancellations turned into a bogus vaccine conspiracy theory. Oh, really? A bogus vaccine conspiracy theory. Conservatives spread baseless theories about spontaneous uprisings of anti-vax patriots, was behind mass flight cancellations of Southwest Airlines. It's like, yeah, because we can see them doing it because they post it to social media. Yeah. I mean, you can go to like a right-wing source like LifeSite News, and they have got all of these links, and they'll just tell you about what's actually happening here. I mean, but you can go to Twitter. If you just go to the next one, you can actually see them interviewing pilots, asking them, why are you, a captain of a plane, protesting? They're like, well, I don't like the vaccine mandates.
And you can see people there protesting, saying, stop the vaccine mandate.
Yeah.
By the way, I've got to say, so last night I went to a live event that had enforced the vaccine passport. So I've got one because I need to travel like overseas and stuff. So I showed him and it was fine. And then my mate didn't have one. So they were like, well, you're not getting in. And then I was like, no, you've got it, Darius. And I just sent him the screenshot of my one. And they looked at it. And literally with, WhatsApp JPEG written at the top of it. And like, they looked at it and just let him in. So I think a lot of these things you can, maybe if you're a pilot, they check a bit closer.
But there are ways around such things, apparently, which we obviously don't endorse. Anyway, so Delta Airlines eventually just abandoned their vaccine mandate because it was divisive, not because, obviously, pilots weren't flying.
So, well, I mean, doesn't this completely discount the Gizmodo headline that said, oh, this is all a conspiracy theory? And then, well, they've abandoned their vaccine mandate.
I mean, they literally said, we're proving you can work collaboratively with your people, trusting your people to make the right decisions, respecting their decisions, and not forcing them over the loss of their jobs. But it's nothing to do with the protest, according to left-wing media. But the question is, why would the media lie about all of this and the vaccine mandates? Well, this particular little clip show does raise an interesting point. Let's play this.
Is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report Brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the
Okay, I think
royal
that's made
wedding
the
is
point,
brought
because I
to you
think that
by...
obviously just goes on and goes on and goes on. But
Yeah.
as you can see, the corporate media's all been bought up by Pfizer. So, using government money that they have had poured into their pockets.
Yeah.
So there we go. And I mean, apparently, according to the FDA in America, you can just mix and match the vaccines now. If we can get the next one up, John. Apparently, the FDA is just like, oh, just mix and match the vaccines because that's how it works.
Is that how it works?
I don't
know
think
much
so.
about vaccines, but I wouldn't have thought. That's like what it did for Heath Ledger. You know what I mean? You can't mix different drugs together.
Yeah,
I know these aren't drugs, but you
no.
know what I mean?
But they operate in different ways, and
Yeah.
yes, no, I'm not an expert, but I don't think that's how it works. But
Although,
I mean, what do I know? You know?
Apparently, if you have the best level of immunity is if you have 2 jabs, 2 vaccinations, and then you catch coronavirus.
Oh wow!
But that, I mean,
Well, I just skipped to the end result and caught it in the first place.
to actually have, the whole point of vaccinating someone is they don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
or-
then the government's saying, you're going to have the top immunity if you get vaccinated and then get the disease that you've been vaccinated against.
Yeah, I mean, I just had it, so
I
anyway.
had it as well.
Yeah.
To be honest, I wish I'd got vaccinated. It was horrible.
It wasn't too bad for me. But anyway, moving on, because we've still got loads to get through, and I
Yep.
want to get through this segment quickly.
Yep.
So apparently the National Recreation and Parks Association has decided that you shouldn't call each other Americans now if you're in America.
Oh, God.
Call them residents or members of a community.
What?
Well, it's because American has quite a lot attached to it, right?
Yeah.
It's got a set of assumptions. What is an American? American is someone with a particular kind of accent, lives in a particular kind of place, has a particular set of values. And you don't know that these people are going to have those, so just call them residents.
Oh,
People
God.
who
It's
exist.
so dehumanizing.
It
Taking
is.
everything
It
that
is.
makes a person, everything that somebody can be proud of and stand up for and believe in, and just removing it to this horrible computer code.
And in fact, on that note, what would be more valuable to the concept of being an American than, say, the Founding Fathers?
Yeah.
Not much. So that's why we have to take away the statue of Thomas Jefferson from the New York City Hall.
The founding people who don't have cervixes.
Yes. We do not need those around anymore. And because we have a quote from the commission, Council member Inez Barron says, "We're not waging war on history. We're saying we want to make sure the total story is told. So get rid of this statue, because that's somehow not a war on history."
That's a war on history. Like, I mean, fair enough, or have a plaque saying, oh, yeah, so there's other stuff going on as well. And there's these guys, and there's some issues with Thomas Jefferson. He owned slaves because it was the old days and everybody was bad back then. It wasn't, there weren't gender studies degrees you could do in the
No, they were not.
1700s or whatever. So obviously people in the old days, we can't judge them by modern standards.
Nope.
So fine, add to the history being taught, but don't tear it down. Don't destroy it and hide it.
No, that's what they're doing. They're hiding it. They're removing it. Anyway, so, I mean, this is what I would consider to be an attack on American cultural identity. Why not? Can't call each other Americans. We can take down your statues of the Founding Fathers. And don't forget that it's pronoun day, though, according to the Department of State.
What are your pronouns, Carl?
He, him, actually.
Mine are she and they.
Based.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not going to remember that, though.
Ban Dave Chappelle. Ban Dave Chappelle.
We'll get to it. But yeah, so this is what they're wasting their time with after trying to deconstruct the American identity. And anyway, moving on, Rachel Levine, do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, a very sane person who's been promoted to a 4-star admiral. Never served in the military.
An Admiral S.
An Admiral S, yes. Well, I mean,
A beautiful lady.
I'm not sure the language was supposed to use, to be honest.
Yeah.
But this was Biden's health
She was health before,
health secretary, assistant secretary for health, has been sworn in as a 4-star admiral. Because why not? Because they're laughing in your face while they do all of this, right? But listen to her statement.
Well, it's kind of weird. 'Cause, like, women are better at being secretaries, I'd have thought.
Disavow. But listen to this, right? I am truly honored to join the ranks of men and women across this great nation who have committed to defend the United States against small and large threats, known and unknown. My father often spoke about his service in the Air Force during World War II, a young man from a small town in Massachusetts, stepping up to answer the call to serving Africa and Italy as a Jewish American. Just as he stepped up to defend our rights and freedoms, I now follow in the storied tradition condition of service as I step up to defend the health of our nation, especially now as we face the biggest public health crisis across our country and the world has faced in modern times. I stand on the shoulders of these LGBTQ plus individuals who came before me, both those known and unknown. May this appointment today become the first of many more to come as we create a diverse and more inclusive future. Diversity makes us stronger.
Yeah, I mean, like, inclusivity, diversity, there's definitely advantages to it, but I think it only works if everybody's included. You know what I mean? Like, at the moment, the media narrative, the mainstream narrative, the societal narrative is that being cisgender, being white, being male, being Christian, all the rest of it is bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's bollocks.
Well, it's because a lot of Americans used to be cisgender white Christian men. But anyway, moving on, you may remember that Rachel Levine is the person who forced nursing homes to accept COVID patients, probably killing around 20,000 elderly people in Pennsylvania. She was in charge.
So the nursing homes are a diverse mix of healthy people and people with coronavirus.
Yes.
And then the people with coronavirus. So, I mean, I don't know if that's an example of diversity being good.
The American Healthcare Association said, well, look, this is going to kill people. And she was like, yeah, but not my 95-year-old mother, who she moved out of a long-term care facility and into a hotel.
No way.
Not even joking. Not even joking.
No
It's exactly
way.
what she did. So, I mean, you could call her a murderer and it wouldn't be an inaccurate charge. But anyway, meanwhile...
It's worse almost.
It's awful.
Like...
Pure evil.
Like, to move... At least, you know, when mad cow disease was around, you know, I remember the Tory politician in charge of it fed his kids beef burgers to show that it's safe. He didn't eat it himself, you know, because I guess he was thinking I can have other kids if these ones. But yeah, to do this, that's disgusting.
So anyway, we've still got more, and I want to get through it. But we've still got to keep an eye on time. Right. So while this is happening, well, one of the Navy's warships burned down. New admiral. Ship burns down. Apparently, this was an entirely preventable avoidable catastrophe, right? But one particular sailor said that this was he was charged with it. But basically, the reporters suggesting that the vessel could have been salvaged if not for the commanders and crew's lack of basic training and skills.
Right.
Interesting how the training and skills of the military are going down under the Biden administration.
Because they're being distracted, being sent on like diversity training.
Even better, right? And get to the next one, John. Even better, the female soldiers can now wear lipstick, nail polish, and locks.
Man, like fine.
No, not fine. Not fine at all.
That's kind of hot.
Like, but that's exactly the problem.
Like, if hot soldiers come over the hill at you, you're going to be, like the Russians or whatever, are going to be less likely to shoot a hot soldier.
Well, the Army has approved healthier style options that are more inclusive of various natural styles in an effort to stop hair damage and loss stemming from hairstyles in a bun. Oh my goodness, why don't they get the head shaved like the men, right? But anyway, so, you know, it doesn't matter. While this is all happening, the US generals are getting their nails done. You open up that image on the right, John. That's a US general who's just been getting her nails done. And at the same time, China's testing hypersonic missiles. Yeah. US intelligence and military officials stunned. Or maybe if they get out of the salons for 5 minutes, maybe they'd be able to figure this out. But literally, if you can go to the next one, a source told Insider Paper.
Do you think there's a link between the number of Asians working in nail salons?
and the decline of the US military?
Yeah.
I can't confirm or deny.
They sowed the seeds of nice nails.
Maybe, but I love this. You know, one of the 5 people familiar with the test said, "We have no idea how they did this." Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad. I mean,
even if you think that, don't say it out loud.
Yeah,
try and look like, we know about this and we know how to deal with it. You know what I mean?
No, they know how to get their hair done and do their makeup when they're on campaign. They don't know how the Chinese are testing hypersonic missiles, but that can carry nuclear warheads, incidentally. But anyway, what was Jen Psaki's response to this? Jen Psaki's response was, "We welcome the competition." China's testing nuclear-capable hypersonic missiles, and Jen Psaki's like, "Yes, we welcome the competition." No, we don't, Jen. That's bad. But anyway, so it's no surprise that Biden's approval rating is through the floor. It's very, very low. It's 42.9% approval on Real Clear Politics average as a time of recording, which means that Donald Trump is at the moment more popular than Joe Biden. And not surprising, because if you go back a year, what was it like under Donald Trump? They were paying you to take away fuel. And it was the roaring economy, lowest unemployment in 50 years or something. Everything was going brilliantly, and Joe Biden has literally screwed this country up on purpose, right? right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, unless you're a shareholder in one of the companies.
unless you own Pfizer stock, you know. But and anyway, so 48% of respondents said they had a positive view of Trump, compared to 46% who had a favorable view of Biden, and 51% believed that Trump was a better president than Biden, which is obviously true.
Yeah.
And that's with a 90% negative media campaign against Trump as well, and almost 100% positive media campaign for Biden.
And it's interesting. People see through it because I was talking to somebody who
Well, they can't afford anything.
well, then somebody who lived in Russia, and so the media they get there is obviously very state heavy, very sort of state propaganda driven. But people know that, so they filter it out. And I think the same has happened in the West. When people read the papers here, when people read the Guardian, they're filtering it. They know it's like it's biased propagandist bullshit.
I absolutely hope so. But interestingly, the people who are happy with Joe Biden are everyone outside of the United States. Around the world, watching America crumble is very, very positive for those countries that hate America.
And that's bizarre because it's not as if America's had any overseas victories. Like Afghanistan was a disaster.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't even find the time to shove that in here either, obviously. But this is the thing. Apparently, Biden's median approval rating across 46 different countries is 49%, whereas Trump's was 30%. Why? Because Trump was acting in American interest and making America strong and great again, meaning they were all salty about it. And Biden's making America weak and failing, and so they're all thrilled about it.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I'm not sure how much I believe that. I think more people like Trump than let on.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too. But the people polled, don't say that. But
the people willing to speak to a polling agency, which is the only people who ever get polled.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full thing at 1 p.m. every weekday at lotuseaters.com, or you can sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff. Every week we have a Contemplations and Epochs episode that goes up, and in the Contemplations we talk about just interesting things, and the Epochs episodes are probably my favourite because I love talking about history. This latest one is we're doing a bit of a series on the 100 Years' War and why England kept winning. And we've not finished it yet, and you're going to really enjoy the end of that one. But we've also got other excellent episodes that we do, like the book club. The most recent one was Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. This was about his time in Burma as a colonial officer, and when he was tasked with the shooting of a rampaging elephant. And it's really, really interesting what the circumstance of the thing was. But we also have lots of other content, such as premium articles, which have audio tracks on them for our silver and gold subscribers. And we do premium podcasts about things that we don't really feel that we can put on YouTube or have done a particularly large amount of research into. And so it's worth keeping them slightly more private. And we also do lots of very interesting interviews, such as this one with comedian Steve Hughes, which was really fascinating because I didn't expect him to be a philosopher. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, the last thing to mention is the live event content we have. So we occasionally, when we get around to it, doing our live events, and the videos from them are on the website as premium, of course, because people came to see and paid. So go and check that out. This is on the worst of critical race theory.
Yes.
And I do mean the worst.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So if you'd like access to all that premium content, go to lotuseaters.com and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.